Hello, welcome to a new lesson. Now it's time to create the final scene of this animation, which is this one. He leaves the room with the broom and then goes back with the vacuum cleaner, says goodbye, and continue to clean. So this is fairly easy. We will repeat the same walking cycle as before, and we have some movement on the arms and the vacuum cleaner, and then we have to change the head and the hand so that he can wave goodbye, and then another walking cycle. So let's create this. First, grab your robot vacuum cleaner and place it here on your scene. Let's get him right on the middle of the screen. And now let's create a keyframe for the position, and now we're going to move 5 seconds. I think 5 seconds is more than enough to get here, and we can appreciate the movement of the robot. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, and I'm going to create another keyframe. So on the first keyframe, I'm going to move the robot to the left. So I'm going to have this movement. Perfect. This is more than enough so that we can see all the movement really well. Okay, now let's open up this composition, this vacuum cleaner composition, and as you can see, I have already rigged this character. If you move this right arm, you can see how it looks. So we have to do a couple of things here. For example, we need this wire to be attached, the wire of the vacuum cleaner to be attached to this hose. So I'm going to attach this to the hose, and the vacuum cleaner should be attached to the wire, this one to the wire, and the hose should be attached to this left hand. So I'm going to take this to the left hand so that when we move the left hand, we also move all the vacuum cleaner. Alright, now there's one more thing that we need to do, and we're going to take the wire, and for the wire we're going to use the puppet pin tool because I want some movement on the wire. You can see here how it moves. You can see that the wire has some movement, and it's a very natural motion, so for that I'm going to use the puppet pin tool. So go to the first second, grab your puppet pin tool and create some puppet pins, one on this point, another one here on the middle, and the third one here on the other end. So now I'm going to open the GUI panel. Let's wait for it to open. Sometimes this happens where the panel hides, but don't worry, you just open it again, and here we have the GUI panel. So with the GUI panel, we can change the name of the puppet pins if you want. We can change these to wire 3, wire 2, and wire 1. So take the wire layer and create some bones. You can see the bones here. And now you will take the wire 1 bone, which is this one right here, and click on controllers, create, and now you will have a controller here. Now you want to attach the wire 3 to the 2 and the 2 to the 1, and the 1 will be attached to the hose. Now take the wire 1, wire 2, wire 3, and finally the controller, press IK and create. Now if we move this controller, you can see that the wire will move too. So you can close this UX panel, and now you will have a new controller here, and this controller, let's parent this to the hose. So when you move the hose, this will happen. Make sure that the wire layer is not attached to anything. So as well, when we move the right hand, we move the hose and we move the wire. So that will create a nice movement. So we are done with that. Let's save our file. Remember to always save your files. And now let's create the walking cycle. For that, let's open our dust cleaner robot, because we're going to copy these keyframes. So open up your position, and first make sure that you are on place here. So here, when he is in the middle, this is where he should stop walking here, of course. So create a marker here, and now we can create all the keyframes for the position. So we're going to take all these keyframes and we're going to paste them here on first on the left foot, and now on the right foot. So we should have something like this. Okay, now we need this to continue. We need the robot to continue walking all the way to this point. So we need to copy some of these keyframes. So to make things easier, we're going to move to this point here where their legs are crossed, and we're going to delete all these keyframes. And now, starting from the 4th keyframe, we're going to duplicate everything. One time, and one more time. And the same goes for the right foot. Zoom in and paste the keyframes. Now he should stop walking right on this point. So in this case, the left foot is okay like this, but we need another keyframe here. Let's delete all these other keyframes. And we just need this keyframe, the right foot, to be standing. Okay, delete these keyframes, and now let's move to our main comp. So we need to make sure that the keyframe is right when he stops walking. So right in this point. Okay, right now this is perfect. Okay, now we need to do a couple of things. We're going to copy the position of the body here on the dust cleaner robot and paste them here on the vacuum cleaner robot. So go to the body and paste the position, and one more time. Now you can see the marker is right here, so we need to delete all these keyframes. Now we have the walking and we have the body movement. We are missing something, which is the head. We need to rotate the head. Let's click here to create a keyframe, and the head will move. Let's move the anchor point to the middle bottom and rotate to the right so that he's looking down. Now all of this is fine, but we need to move the arms as well, because he needs to look like he's actually vacuuming the room. So we need to create some movement for the hand. So let's open the positions here for the right hand and the left hand. Create a keyframe here, and then let's move 10 frames, and let's move the right hand, the left hand, sorry, a little to the right, like this, and then the right hand should move to the right as well. So they will go like this. And now we have to repeat this same process quite a few times. First, turn them into easy ease, and let's create some copies until we reach the marker. Okay, exactly right here. Repeat the same for this one. And one last time here. Okay, so now the movement will be something like this. he actually looks like he's vacuuming the room. Now we need to create one final frame here and copy the original position so that when he stands, he goes back to normal. Now if you take a look at how the arm moves, you can see that there's something wrong here because the leg is getting in the way of the hand. So to fix that, it's really simple. Just take the right arm layers and place them on top of the legs layers, and that's it. Okay, so when we get here, he is in the original position, and this is the time where he looks to the camera and waves goodbye. So we need to create that. You can see how the vacuum cleaner moves really well with the wire, so we're on a good track here. So when he gets here, the first thing that we're going to do is to change the rotation of the head, because if you take a look at the video, he looks up and then looks to the front. So how do we do that? Now let's change the rotation of the head, create a keyframe here, and 10 frames later set the degrees to 0 degrees, so he will do something like this. So now when he gets in this place, you can see that we have a new layer called front head, which is actually the head looking to the front. So what we need to do is to place this head instead of this one, the normal head. So take the front head layer and place it on top of this, or of a regular head. Exactly like this. Alright, now this head will appear exactly as the normal head rotates to 0 degrees. So take the front head and with the opening bracket make sure that the layer begins here. And now take the rotating head, the normal head, which is this one. We can create a color for this. Let's make it purple. And with Alt and the closing bracket, now when we press play, the head changes. So he will look up and to the front, exactly as it is on the video. Okay, we're done with this. Now it's time to wave with this hand. So this part can be a little tricky, but don't worry. Let's close this for now. Now let's grab the right hand, which is the one that is going to move. Let's create a keyframe here. And now 10 frames later, this hand will move all the way to this point, to the top. But you can see that the hand needs to be fixed. So we're going to the previous keyframe, create a rotation keyframe, and now make sure that on this point you rotate the hand to the left so that it's something like this. Okay, now this is the tricky part, because we need to make this hand disappear and make room for this new hand that we have, which is called the waving hand. I'm going to make it a yellow color. You can see this waving hand. This hand should be right here on this part. But first, let's turn it off. What we need to do is to turn off this left hand, the right hand, sorry. So the problem is that if I cut this right hand, then when I start walking again, when the robot starts walking again, this will become a problem with the controllers. So what we need to do is to turn it off for just a second. And how do we do that? We do that by changing the opacity. So right on this point, we're going to press the T keyboard on your keyboard to open the opacity settings, and we're going to create a keyframe here. Now, just move one layer, one frame with Control and the right on your keyboard. You can move one frame each time, like this. So move one frame to the right and change the opacity to 0. So what will happen is that when we hit play, we have a hand, and then we don't have a hand. So right here, when the hand disappears, this is where this waving hand will enter. Let's change this to the top. So take the waving hand and move right on this point where the hand disappears, and press the opening bracket so that the layer begins here. Zoom in just a little bit and turn on the waving hand, so this will happen. We have one hand and then we have the other hand. Now all you need to do is to change the rotation of this waving hand, because right now it's not working very well. Okay, we should have something like this. And now it's time to move the hand so that it looks like he is waving. But first we need to parent this waving hand with this controller, with the controller for the right arm, because otherwise when we move the hand, when we move the arm, we will lose this hand. So take the waving hand and parent it to the C right hand, which is the controller for the right hand. So now if we move this arm, the hand will move too. Okay, so now we are all set. Now it's time to create some movement for the right hand. He gets to this point, and then let's zoom out just a little bit. 10 frames later, he will move to the left, make sure that none of these layers has the auto bezier. Okay, and now we need to create some copies for this. Every 10 frames we can create I don't know, maybe 4 copies. Okay. Right now it's fine, but as you can see, we need to fix the rotation of this new waving hand, because right now it doesn't look like he's waving. So let's create some keyframes. Here we are fine, but when we get here to this point, we want to play with the rotation of this waving hand. So create a keyframe, and now here we will change the rotation a little bit to the left, like this, and then back again. Create some copies. Okay, so let's see how this looks. Perfect. So here we're going to create one final keyframe, and we will create the same position as the original, and then pay attention to this part because this can be a little tricky too. Right here the waving hand will end, so we need to Alt and closing bracket here, and now go back to the right hand, and this is where the hand will appear again. So we need to create a keyframe here for the opacity again, move one frame and change the opacity to 100. Move this little bit, and we should have this effect. So when we get here, we need to move the arm back to the original position, which is this one. So copy this, and 10 frames later we'll copy that. So now we're done with the waving hand. Let's see how this looks. Okay, perfect. Now when he gets his arm back to the original, we have to change the head again. So let's look for the head layer, and we need to finish this front head layer with Alt and the closing bracket. And now take your head layer, your original head layer, and create a duplicate with Ctrl and D. Now with the opening bracket, make sure that it starts right here. So we will have this. Now open your rotation for this new copy and change the rotation to 0 degrees. Now move 10 frames and change the rotation to the right. You can delete these ones. So we should have something like this. Okay, perfect. Now you may wonder why I didn't repeat the same process as I did with the right hand. Turn the opacity on and off. The thing is that turning the opacity on and off can be more complicated than just creating a duplicate. So creating a duplicate is way easier. In this case, as we only need to create a duplicate for one layer, it's no problem. But if we had to do that to, I don't know, 10 layers, of course that would be a problem because we would end up having too many layers. So it would be a better idea to play with the opacity. Okay, now when we get here, actually this is too much. Okay, 12 degrees is enough. Now when we get here, we need to start walking again. So what we need to do is to go to the dust cleaner and copy not the first batch of keyframes but the second one, because the second one already has the anchor point that we need to have here. So copy this second batch first with the left foot. Let's close this. And then with the left foot. Now he gets there and starts walking again. Okay, now let's go to the main comp, and we should start walking right here. So we will create a keyframe, and let's count 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 seconds again, and he will move all the way to the right. But I'm pretty sure that we are going to need more steps. Let's see. We just need a little bit more steps. So here is what we're going to do. We're going to copy all of these keyframes and we're going to delete all the remaining layers, the remaining keyframes, and we're going to copy starting from the fourth keyframe and make a copy. I think one copy is enough. Let's see if I'm right. This is the marker. Actually, we will need a few more steps. Copy again the keyframes. And paste them. So right now we should have a normal walking cycle. Alright. Now to finish this, we need to create some duplicates for the body movement, the up and down movement of the body. Just copy these layers, these keyframes, and when he starts walking again, copy these keyframes here. Now let's take a look at how this looks. You can crop this layer here, and let's see how this whole scene looks. He enters the room, he's vacuuming. Look at the vacuum cleaner, how it moves. He looks to the camera, waves, and goes again. Really nice. Okay, we're through with the final scene of this animation. Now it's time to add some final effects to this animation. So see you on the next lesson.